stuff going on. We want to start with talking about Sheets just crushing in the hockey last night. Sheets, talk a little bit about this.
Dude, this is craziness. So first of all, it was only a 3-game slate. Okay. So there are 2 tournaments. There's a lottery, and then there's a 333 single entry. I took both of them down with the same, obviously with the same lineup, and we sweated it a little bit live, and it was just totally freaking clean. Like, and both of them won by like 7 points. And even still at the end, I had, listen, hockey, especially with 3-game slate, everybody's got somebody, so I had to sweat it all. But it was totally fun, totally cool. And this is what it looks like. There's one line of wins 20-0-0-0-0 right across. So that was just freaking awesome. Now, with Bobby was kind of talking about before we had to stop and start again, is we have 3 huge slates tonight. We have a 11-game hockey slate, which we're going to spend no time on today. I'll deal with it later. We have a 1,000,000-game NBA slate, which we're going to spend no time on now, also because it's just stupid to spend any time on it before 6 p.m.
Yep.
But we'll deal with both of those then. But we are going to spend time now is on the baseball. Now let's look at, we have a little bit of publicity. We do all the sports on TrueDFS. Between Bobby, just being super expert at the major sports. I'm good enough at these minor sports to win and to keep people interested. Between that and DFS Chan, like owning League of Legends, without even realizing, we've become kind of a site that you could just kind of get whatever you want on here. So and I enjoy playing these guys and playing these sports too. So these are fun times.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was thrilled for you. That's a great win. I mean, that's tough to win 20K in hockey on a 3-game slate. It's pretty amazing. You got to win both of the big tournaments.
Yeah.
With that said, let's pull up and let's see if we can duplicate that in the MLB today. So
yeah.
Let's spread the love around. Sheets is just crushing, man. That's awesome. But I need to get a little bit going here in the MLB. It's been a little bit of a slow start for me. I thought I was going to do really well yesterday because I had like every stack I had was going off, but it turns out every stack went off. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really matter, but it was kind of a fun feeling at the beginning because it did feel like, wow, Atlanta, like with Acuna, like 5% owner, 4% ownership. I think he was in the 777. It just was wild. There was just a lot out there, but we've got a huge slate today. We're going to have to prioritize. There's going to be more concentrated chalk today, actually, oddly enough, than there was yesterday. But we'll fight our way through. We're going to go game by game here. And then we'll revise it and be live at 6 Eastern and go over everything.
So Survivor, we go off to a good start with our Tampa play. We're struggling a little bit with Houston, but again, we just have to go 500 for the week. We got 2 more Tigers to get started. And I actually have a neat little EV calculator tool, which I'm gonna trot out for next week that I found. So. All right, so I'm looking at today's slate a lot different than yesterday. So yesterday I essentially just punted all the pitchers. Today I'm not going to be quite as cavalier. I think today I'm going to be near the top with my pitching, and even though there seems to be concentration of chalk with hitting wise, I think there are options. So we can do game by game with this one, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting, for those of you who haven't checked it out, we just did a Saber Sim show that I would think was really, really helpful, especially for those, just how to use their projections, how to best optimize it with Sheets. And then we did it with the Saber Sim people. So I really did suggest you guys check it out. One of the things I thought was interesting was that the actual build of all the guys they were getting the most ownership of was legitimately the first lineup. I had the first 9 guys I put in my freaking lineup when I just made one last night. But all right, let's start off with what do you have first? The Yankees? Yeah.
The Yankees.
All right. What do you like here, Sheets?
Well, I don't like anything as far as the pitching goes. I don't like Herman. It seems like you're supposed to like Herman, but I'm not getting him as anything worth playing. And Strom, I'm not getting either. With respect to the hitting, we're going to get to like the teams that are the kind of like the chalky plays. But aside from them, I mean, like, I think you can always make a case for the Yankees, and I'm showing at least that early ownership is not really being being owned that much. So yeah, I think the Yankees are definitely in play. So I like the Yankees a little bit, and none of the pitching.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised the Yankees don't have an even higher run total. I thought I'd be a little bit above 5 today. You do have, look, at 68 degrees, a little better than we've had so far, with some wind blowing in from right field, and 8 miles an hour. It's going to make me a little bit heavier on the righties, but I would have been heavier on them anyway because you've got Strom on the other side. And like you said, I don't think you're getting crazy ownership, partially due to the pricing and because there's so many games. So I'm on board with a low-owned Yankees righty stack, or at least a mini stack. They are high on my list right now as a one of the ways to get different. Matt Strom, and then a Phillies bullpen, which is actually a pretty good bullpen, but it's not going to be as good of a bullpen when you're down 7-0 in the third inning. That means you're going to potentially be able to do some very big things. In terms of individual plays, obviously we already know the deal. Stanton and Judge both crush righties and lefties, but they especially crush lefties. And Anthony Volpe is going to steal bases basically most of the time he gets on base, whether it's a righty or a lefty. So just keep those in mind. Tampa Bay, Washington next. I do think Tampa Bay is going to have some of the ownership, but outside of Brandon Lau at a really cheap price, Harold Ramirez has got the multi-position in 3K. He's cheap also. Yandy Diaz, Franco. This is a decent stack here. And I'm sorry if I didn't jump off of the pitching, which I probably should have. I don't think I'm getting to any of the pitching here, but I love to attack Chad Kuhl, and just going to double check my weather here. And we've got 77 degrees with slight winds blowing out to left center. Let's go Tampa Bay. The only problem you're going to have to deal with is they are one of the popular teams along with the Blue Jays, and you're going to have to worry a little bit about the ownership factor. And the fact that Tampa Bay, even though we haven't seen it as much this year so far, you can bet that they are going to you're going to see some platooning at different points of the season with some of these positions. So just keep that in mind. You've got a guy who hit 2 home runs yesterday who's not currently projected to be in the lineup, which I would imagine will be the case. But I'm fully on board with Tampa Bay as a stack. I just don't like the ownership. And
these are the 4 Tampas that I'm always going to play, and the guy that again I just always like to play in there is the Parodies. He hit the home run yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
So these are the 4 dudes, especially against. I don't think it matters whether Kuhl's right or left. You know what I mean? Like now, keep in mind. Okay, so he's coming out of Coors, right, where he was last year, and let's not forget best performance of the season, the Coors Kuhl at home against the Dodgers, right?
Right.
Shut him down.
Shut him down in his first game back.
Yeah.
He's been gone for months. Sorry.
Yeah. So again, I will throw in my my dumb take or whatever it is that about the Washington bullpen maybe not being as bad. So we got to watch the ownership. I think the combination of platoon risk plus ownership plus all that, I'm kind of inclined to fade a Tampa stack that's going to be the chalkiest on the board. They're not going to be the chalkiest. I think Toronto's probably going to be chalkier, but I think they're going to be competing for that. And I would rather avoid Tampa on a full slate if I could, considering I'm probably going to play some very obvious pitchers.
Yeah, and then one thing I would say is just even if you are, whether you're playing Tampa or not, look out for their lineup, because the lineup that they're currently being projected, I'm not buying it. I think it's going to be a different lineup than what they have out there. It would be weird if they didn't play Raley against a righty after hitting 2 home runs. I'm not sure where that logic would come from. So I would bet Raley's in the lineup, and he's not even currently projected on SaberSim anyway. But yeah, so we'll see how that one shakes out. But there is definitely going to be some pinch hit risk for.
Do you like Fleming at all?
No. I mean, sure, it's fine. Like, I guess he's cheap enough to where it's okay. Maybe I'm overlooking this. I thought I heard something about a pitch count. I'll double check with it. But I don't know. It is a good matchup. What are your thoughts on him?
I don't have him at all. I'm just to throw him out there.
Yeah, I just feel like he's.
Meanwhile, I told you something's in the water in Tampa. Everybody smashes.
Yeah. Fleming is certainly. I mean, yeah, we got it with Rasmussen yesterday for
Rasmussen and Springs so far, like 1-2 in the Cy Young. You know what I mean? Like,
McClanahan ain't too bad either.
Nope. I totally forgot about that.
So, yeah, I mean, this team, talk about the right way to do baseball. I mean, they really, really play like real baseball, playoff baseball all year long. Anyway,
what happened to Tyler Glass now?
He had an injury a while ago, but it was supposed to be like a year-long injury. So I think that's what we're still dealing with here. All right, moving on. We've got up next the Pittsburgh and Boston game. Is that correct? Yeah.
What's the total? 30? I mean, like
total's a low 9. This is an interesting one because it's not ideal as far as like it's 51 degrees, but it's been like that. Slight wind blowing in 6 miles an hour from center. Look, I feel like every side of this game I could argue, which means I probably actually have less of it than I currently have, except for sort of like struggling with the ownership thing. First of all, I do think Pivetta is completely in play here. We know he has a wide range of outcomes, but I also think both stacks are in play. We like to, Boston is one place where we don't have to worry. Even with cold weather, you can still find yourself getting there. And I am okay with like everything from this game, but at first look, it's certainly not a priority, but maybe it's a really good way of getting off the chalk, considering that no one is playing this game and all they seem to do is go off. Boston's bullpen's terrible. Pittsburgh's bullpen's bad. Contreras can be awesome or it can be horrible. Same thing with Pivetta. So this every side of this game is somewhat appealing to me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not getting to any of the pitchers here. Just again because I'm just getting to the other ones. You know what I mean? Like, and whatever's in the water in Tampa is not in the water in Boston apparently, or anybody that goes to Boston. So it's kind of. I mean, you should probably just play the hitters, I suppose, from both sides, like you said. So that's what I like, and I don't think. Look, neither of them are my favorite stack on the board. But if I'm playing a bunch of lineups, it's just silly to not have some pieces of games where they score 20 runs a game. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. Right. So I'm probably gonna try and Pivetta. Everyone, Pivetta has he always has a ceiling. And Contreras has young pitcher upside, I suppose. But I don't know what I'm getting for that. I don't know what I'm going to be able to pay up for because I gamble with Contreras and freaking at Fenway. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Fair enough. I do think Pivetta has the ceiling to make him in play here. The Boston bullpen is terrible. But you also have cheap bats on, like you've got Casas still at first base. Hit a home run yesterday, 2,500 on DK. All of that, I'm into maybe going out of my way to make this game a little bit more of a priority, which I think they're going to be a little more on than they are. But you just can't play that many teams on this slate, and we've already come through, I think, 2 really good ways of getting off of the chalk in the Yankees, Boston, and Pittsburgh.
But if you play Pittsburgh, then you get to play the
best player in baseball.
The combination. Wait. You get to play the combination of Ji-Hwan Bae and hold on, we got to do this right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, C. Smith Jiba. I don't know what's his first name.
Jiba. I actually don't know his first name.
I don't even know his first name.
Top of my head, I'm having trouble with it right now. It's too many guys. Kanan Smith
Najiba.
Yep, you can have some fun with that one for sure. I do think that's a really interesting game. All right. The next games are again, all these games are pretty interesting to me. You have Toronto and KC next. I was going to look at the Mets, but okay, we'll go to Toronto, KC. For me, no interest in the pitching, but yeah, is there a route where Kikuchi could get there? Sure. I'm not going to do it. The hitters are going to be very popular on the Toronto side, and I think they look like the best stack on the slate. You're facing Bubic, who, while he might be occasionally a guy we use at a cheap price and good matchups, this doesn't qualify. This is a nightmare matchup. You've got righties galore. You've got literally everybody on their team, even the 9-hitter projected to be double-digit owned, and most of the guys like closer to 20 than 30. it's really hard to not like Toronto, but it's also very, very hard to play chalk and get away with it in baseball. So
yep.
So maybe the rule for the Jays is, for me, I have to use them as like a mini stack, either like a 3-man to complement one of my other stacks, or a 4-man or something like that. It's just going to be very hard to win with the Jays when everyone's playing them. And on the other side of this game, I think you can make a case for KC. I am not like, especially the thing that, well, I guess what's holding me back is that because of their pricing, especially Franmil Reyes, who I like, Hunter Dozier, who I like today, but Nate Eaton's minimum cost, all those guys are projected to be double-digit owned. Then they're going to be combined with Witt, so you're not going to get that low owned of a stack. So yes, in play, probably not for me, but certainly a good source of value with guys like Reyes and Dozier as power outside one-offs. How about you?
Yeah, kind of annoying. So yesterday, my two of my hoodoo stacks, one scored 9 runs, Kansas City. The other scored like 1 million runs with Cleveland, and I still lost. So
yeah, it was a weird day.
Yeah. So I have Kansas City as in play. But like you said, I mean, they're kind of cheap. So, and I know it's weird to say, because in basketball, you want guys to be good values. Like in baseball, you almost don't. I'd rather play Reyes at like 4,500 than 29.
Right. You get him at like 2% or 1% versus.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can deal with KC at high ownership, which it doesn't look like they're going to be, but they're going to be at least mid-range ownership. Now Toronto, they're going to get pounded. I was kind of hoping that the team would get off to a kind of a slow start, because when Toronto comes back home, they move the fences in like 10 feet. Apparently what they did was they specifically moved it in like to right center to like, because their analytics like allowed them, told them to do that. So when it goes back to Toronto, it's going to be all kinds of nonsense going on over there.
Not to mention this lineup is just, I mean, they're just loaded. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and they've gotten deeper too. I mean, they've got guys who aren't going to play tonight, who aren't in the starting lineup, who are still awesome, but like adding Varsho and Brandon Belt and some of the other guys they've added, they're just a really good, very deep team.
So they're the best play, right? They're the best play. They're the highest owned. Proceed at your own risk. I guess that's the best I can describe it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do the pitching though. I'm not going to do Kikuchi, and I'm not going to do Bubic.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about, what do you have next? Is it the Atlanta or the other one?
I have the next game.
All right, this is interesting. Why don't you start this one off?
Right. Okay. So it's taken us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games before we get to a good pitcher, and then we got one. Okay, so I have Scherzer. I have 4 pitchers that I'm choosing between, and he's one of the ones I'm choosing between. I'll just kind of leave it at that. I don't have any. Haven't decided which way I'm going to go yet, but Scherzer is definitely on the short list. I'm not playing Milwaukee. I'm not playing Milwaukee. I'm not playing Miley on the other side. And as far as the Mets, I don't really have them rated that high at all. So for me, it's going to be Scherzer or nothing in this game.
Yeah, I've got Scherzer with basically like a 35% chance to have 28 fantasy points or more. I actually think that's a pretty good number. And even when he misses, he's still going to be solid. Like, we know Milwaukee has some power. We went through this all last year. It's sort of the same type of thing. They strike out against righties. We know who Scherzer is. Obviously, you'd rather him at home in general. But I'm in on Scherzer. I will be overweight. I have him as the number 1 pitcher right now. You're going to hear that a lot from me this year. There are guys who I'd play Scherzer over, regardless of anything and matchup projections. I just feel like he's got the realistic longest leash, and he's the most competitive guy. He's actually hard to get off the mound when he's pitching.
Yep.
So I'm definitely on board with that. Wade Miley, the guy who everyone always has tried to stack against since I started playing DFS, and basically it never works. Mets against the lefty in a good hitter's park. Yeah, off the board. More than that, I think I would probably just think about maybe a one-off of Alonso or maybe like a mini stack, but I don't think it's a priority on this slate. Milwaukee's still with a good bullpen, although it's not what it was, but they're still a pretty solid bullpen, and Wade Miley tends to be better than people think, and the Mets haven't really been crushing the ball yet. So Probably not going to be that high on them, but they are going to be low owned. So I certainly have no problem if that's the route you want to go. All right. Atlanta, St. Louis. Sheets, go ahead.
Yeah. So Atlanta every day. I can't imagine a slate where Atlanta's not in play. Except if I'm trying to think of when they wouldn't be in play.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a time.
What's that?
I don't know if there's a time.
No, I'm trying to think of what pitcher I wouldn't play. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't imagine not being in play. Yeah, I suppose so. However, I'll tell you this. As I talked about yesterday, St. Louis against lefties, I'll take a shot at this too. So I like both sides of this game hitting wise, and at least first look ownership, St. Louis is getting like nothing. So I guess this is my first shot at something like Atlanta. Yeah, I can always play them, but maybe St. Louis is where I'm going to start today. That's going to be my initial, hopefully off the board take.
The interest, yeah, I mean, well, definitely off the board. I mean, off the board in terms of ownership.
Yeah.
It is weird. Like, I don't know how many innings they're going to let this Dodd go.
Until he's given up 7 runs, hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting. I don't have any weather for this game, which feels really strange because it's in St. Louis. So I've got to double check that a little bit later. I see. Yeah, winds out to left at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Sign me up. And I don't care if the name Steven Matz is on the other side. I'm not going to ignore them again. So I'll put these guys in a similar tier to where both as I mean, look, you don't need to game stack because we don't need to get into all that right now, but we don't need to game stack. But both sides of this are pretty interesting. Yeah. Got a giant total or a big total with 10 early in the season. I like the Atlanta and the St. Louis as 2 other ways to get different. Have them a little bit behind Boston and Pittsburgh, but not much, to be honest with you. So I'm on board with this, Sheets. I think we can do some stuff here. They're a little bit expensive, both sides, but that's okay. I mean,
I don't know. These Cardinal guys look pretty reasonable.
Well, you've got Walker, Yepes, and I mean, those guys, every one of those guys may be in for 1 at bat or something, or 2 at bats.
Oh, I'm looking at Arenado, Edmund, O'Neill, Carlson, and Goldschmidt.
Those guys are not cheap, though.
Oh, anything over 5K, I figure it's cheap. Okay.
Well, Goldschmidt's 56, Arenado's 49. I mean,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, I think both sides of this. Another really good way to get different on this slate. My favorites being Tyler O'Neill.
Yep.
And Tyler O'Neill, and you got the cheap guys over there as well. And Marcelo Zuna would be the first guys I would look at just because the pricing is pretty good on them. But the problem is you're going to see a lot of good outfielders today, so don't need to play either of them. All right, next up we have Baltimore and Texas. Still haven't gotten roof information on this game yet. Usually that comes in about an hour or so where they've been trying to open it more. So I don't know what they're going to do with Heaney in terms of letting him go first start. I do think he is the type of pitcher who we should always be playing in DFS. He's weird. He sometimes throws 100 pitches in 3 innings and somehow still hasn't given up a run. And then he'll strike out 10 guys in 4 innings. Like he's just got huge upside, certainly some downside. So I have Heaney on my list, but not a priority. And I'm not really getting to these stacks, although I have by the way, it's not that bad to take a shot at Kyle Gibson at 6,700. I actually think that's not the worst thing in the world either. If you are going to play some Texas bats, I would just recommend the usual Corey Seager as a really good play and Adolis Garcia as my 2 favorites, but not that interested in this one.
Yep. I think Haney is kind of like he's kind of with a tournament play that you can consider if you don't want to just play, double of the top 4 guys. And like you said, he's got 35 in his system, and Baltimore. I mean, look, they hit home runs, they strike out too, So yeah, I think he's definitely in play in MME. Probably not going to be in my single entry though, or any of my big ones. I'm probably just going to end up paying up for 2 pitchers.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I'm not really getting to Texas or. Am I getting to Texas or Baltimore? I got Texas like kind of like a 6th best value, something like that.
Yeah, there is some. I mean, I get it. I certainly don't mind them. They're really cheap, but really like Seager is the one who really stands out to me as just being. I'll just tell you guys, I'm going to be overweight Seager every single day that we have. So, and 4,500 is a very reasonable price for him. All right, moving on to Detroit and Houston. So this is the Valdez. I think like the early projections have him way too popular. I understand how good the matchup is, but I don't think he should be double Scherzer's ownership. I just don't, and I don't think he will be by the time the slate locks. But Valdez is obviously a tremendous option. It is Detroit. Valdez has a leash. The guy's awesome. I have no problem with him. But maybe the more interesting part of this game is what do we do against Matt Manning, who's sort of all over the map in general, with Houston as a low-owned stack? I think that might be the best route of this game. So, I mean, we have Tampa Bay and the Jays getting all the love. Houston, Boston, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, St. Louis. I don't see any of these teams being that far below them. So I will have myself some Houston stacks absolutely tonight. That's going to happen.
How did I know Matt Boyd was doing really, really well, and then they ended up giving up 5 runs. Did he give up the 5 runs, or did he continue on to do well?
Yeah, he got hit in the fifth.
He did. That's too bad.
He gave up at least 3 of them, maybe 4.
Yeah, so Manning's got talent. He could do something, but like you said, I mean, Houston, listen, they're coming off a loss. They're going to be whatever. They're going to be but then again, I keep going back to what you said about Houston. That they're just not the same, you know? But this is against the righty. And now you can play well.
Well, you could have yesterday too, because Alvarez hit a home run again.
He's impossible.
Yeah.
But Alvarez at 5,800 it's tough to play. But at 5,800, I'd rather play him against the righty. Let's put it that way. Tucker 55, Pena 5 today. I mean, it's tough to play these guys as usual. And
that's partly why the ownership's so low.
That's what I'm saying. And
they
are
the Yankees treatment.
Yeah, sure, why not? As a matter of fact, I mean, I have them rated just as high as all these other sub-Toronto Tampa stacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, why not?
Yeah, and wait to see how their lineup shakes out, because they have some young guys who could be in there who are very cheap. So just wait to see.
And by the way, to touch on it, I have Valdez. I mean, I literally have the top 4 guys are equal. I have no idea what to do with them. So I have Valdez as in there as well.
Yeah, and if all things being equal, I'm going to take the best pitcher, even regardless of matchup in this situation, if he's going to be lower owned. So that's my way of dealing with that one. So you have the Cleveland Oakland next, right?
Yeah. So now we're on to the other one. I mean,
the other ace.
Yeah, 3rd of the 4th. So Bieber's awesome, and he's I have him no different. That's pretty much the end of that. I don't have any Oakland hitters. And I'm not getting to any of the Cleveland today. You know me, especially off the 14 runs, whatever they scored yesterday. So it's just going to be Bieber, and that's pretty much it. Yeah,
Bieber is a top option for me along with Scherzer. I have no problem. There's plenty of ways you can play them together. It's not that hard. I'm just double checking the weather here. It's only 54 degrees, but there's some wind blowing out. It was blowing out like 20 miles an hour last night, a little bit better. I'm very, very into this, the Bieber play. One thing that's weird is that I'm still not sure where I stand on Sears as a pitcher. And maybe nobody is. I wouldn't cross him out if I was entering 150. I'll put it that way. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to Cleveland at these prices after the scoring 1 million runs. Sheets' favorite thing. Don't ever play the team who scored 1 million runs last night. So I kind of agree that tonight I'm just probably not getting to it. But I definitely like Bieber. And if you wanted to, I'm never going to say no to any of the individual bats for Cleveland. They're actually, I think, a little bit underrated with Naylor, Kwan, Rosario, Ramirez, all those guys I like quite a bit. And then you've got the massive power behind the plate if he plays, and Zunino. Not going to show up for anybody, but they certainly have some upside every night. All right. So, and Rich is touching on something in chat that I just completely couldn't disagree with more. To stack, it's not that I don't agree that Toronto KC looks like a decent stack, but I just think that even if you know it's going to be chalky, like in baseball, it should never be, I know it's going to be chalky, but I have to do it. It doesn't matter if it works tonight, because even if it works, you're still not getting there. You're just not going to be able to beat the numbers around you. It's going to be so hard to get it perfect. I would suggest leaning more of a mini stack for.
And I got bad news for you. You know, like when we get to these core slates, which are coming, you know what I mean? Yeah. You're gonna hear like kind of like a broken record. Like I'm almost never gonna recommend those stacks. You know, right. Almost never. I mean, you could. Look, Bobby's really good at like figuring out how to like grab pieces here and there, you know, whatever. I just don't end up fading it, you know, and I'll have no reason for it except for it's baseball. You know, that's pretty much it.
Yep, tremendous variance. All right, so let's move over to the Seattle Angels game. Sorry, Sheets, got started off.
Yeah, and this is the fourth one. So then there's Castillo, who's I have him rated the same. He's a little cheaper than the others, so it makes up for whatever argument you want to make that he's not quite as good as Scherzer, Bieber, maybe even Valdez, but he's 1,000 cheaper than the other two and 500 cheaper than Valdez, and the guy's a beast. You know, he's got the Angels, so I can't really separate him, and I'll have to figure out how. So he's in that core group of four. And as far as the hitting goes, I'm not playing the Angels. And I'm not quite interested in going attacking Suarez, you know, so probably off of this game too. But I do like Castillo.
Yep. I like Castillo, and that's pretty much it. I don't mind the idea of taking a shot on Suarez theoretically. I just probably won't end up doing it. That's all I got here. My Dodgers at the end. All right, Sheets, go ahead and I'll.
What is the weather?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was so insane last night, and then they ended up scoring, but they got the Chris Taylor. I don't know where he hit the home run, but it was supposed to be blowing 30 miles an hour in from left. I didn't end up watching the game. So, and then you had the Jason Hayward hit a home run last night. They scored a bunch.
Jason Hayward still playing baseball?
Yeah, for us. It's not. I mean, it's literally not. It's 17 mile an hour winds across field right now. 58 degrees. Nothing ideal here.
Yeah, I'm kind of off of this game. You tell me. I just don't play Arias, especially against when I have these other pitchers. So that's kind of stupid to say. I don't play Arias, but I mean, like when I'm competing against four other aces like that, I just don't. I have this impression of him not having the same type of upside, but what do I know? And Marquis on the against the Dodgers. I mean, I'll find a place to play him, but just not going to be today. But it's good enough for me that it's probably going to keep me off the Dodgers. So I'm just going to hope I have enough fantasy points that I don't have to worry about sweating this game.
Yeah. So Arias is actually a better. You could argue you could argue in terms of actual production, he's maybe the best pitcher on the slate in some ways because he's always pitching. I mean, obviously Scherzer's a better pitcher, but like Arias is like, he's the most sure thing, like to get you, 15 to 20 and there's some upside maybe, but like, is that worth paying 10 to? Probably not. I do like him just fine. He's below the other guys a little bit. I don't think he should be as far below Castillo as he is, but Castillo does have more strikeout upside. Arias is just a really, really good real life pitcher. The Rockies were a little bit pesky against lefties last year, so not overly in love with it. Not going to play the Dodgers against Marquis with the way the weather is, and honestly, I don't love doing it anyway, even in Colorado sometimes.
Well, maybe we shouldn't. I mean, as I was about to dismiss this, maybe we shouldn't be so quick as to not play the Dodgers.
No, I'm 100%. Like, I'll have them in a lineup on one of my. Like, I've got 7 in the 150 on FanDuel today. That's 100K for first. I'll play one of the Dodgers possibly in that. I'm considering it, but I don't think that this should be a priority team. I mean, let me just grab up some stuff here about Marquis really quick, because I do want to. I mean, we have a huge sample size, and they face each other. Oops, sorry about this, but I should have this ready before, but we had the other call, so I didn't quite get to it. Marquis. I spelled Marquis wrong. No wonder it didn't work. Why is it not working? That's really weird. All right. I don't know why I can't get his BVP, but I will. Let me just do this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying we should write them off, but like, how many stacks do you want to go in with? I never like to try to have more than 4 or 5 stacks as priorities, because I think you just end up kind of giving away stuff by doing that. And for what it's worth, like, the Dodgers have had very good and very bad results at different times. Overall, you would say very good. Yeah, I mean, I think the stack is okay. I do. I just don't think it's as good as the other ones. You're playing games with 80-degree weather and winds blowing out, and like, to go to a 50 some odd, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where I'm struggling, but I'm never going to say no to a Dodgers stack.
How many are you playing in the FanDuel?
I'm playing 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to freaking probably play something.
Yeah,
$150K for first.
100K for first, but $150 buy-in.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to play a couple.
And in baseball, you kind of have to spread. Like, I'm probably going to use 3 or 4 stacks only, and maybe throw one. Maybe I'll use 3 and then throw 1 Dodger stack in there, just or at least a mini stack. But I don't feel like, I don't know. I just don't. I don't feel like I don't feel like they're the ideal team to get for the power speed upside that you want right now. The stacks I do have is I like Houston quite a bit. I like Boston, Pittsburgh on both sides. I like Atlanta, St. Louis on both sides. And then you get into the chalky Jays, KC value, Tampa Bay. But I think the Atlanta side is just going to be my default when they're low owned. Matz is a good pitcher, so maybe you could argue that that's not at the right time to do it. I don't mind it. I still think that they're completely legitimate. I don't think Matz, for example, is a better pitcher than Marquis. I don't think he's like significantly better than Marquis is. And for what it's worth, Matz on decent volume has completely, the Braves have done absolutely nothing against him. So maybe I'm reaching on that one, but I don't think so. I still like the Houston, Boston, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, St. Louis as my priorities, and maybe get the Yankees in there as well.
I'm gonna throw another one into the mix. So I'm gonna reiterate the Cardinals as my favorite, and then I'll reiterate the Yankees too. I'm gonna throw in the Mets too, just for fun. So it's gonna be, if I was gonna build like lineups now that should try to get a little low owned, whatever, it would be St. Louis, Mets, Yankees, because I'm gonna have to do something, because I'm just gonna probably play those chalk pitchers. There's nothing else I could do. Even if I want to get off the board, it's not like I'm going to. The best I'm going to do is play Haney, and then I'm not even saving that much,
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to look to see if there's any way of the spending down, because early on I do think that it's been the right thing to try to look to spend down. I think you could make an argument for Herman. I think you can make an argument for Kyle Gibson. To be honest, like, as gross as it sounds, he is 50. You have Fleming at 6,100 and Cool at 59. I mean, it's just a differentiating type of thing. If you wanted to play the Toronto stack, I think that's the kind of thing that you might have to do. Just totally differentiate your build and go really weird at pitching at double spending.
Are there any really, really good cheapos today? Let me just look at
there's nobody like I look at the value, and I actually think that it's not very good, which kudos to DraftKings. That means they're doing a good job. When you see everybody who's projecting as the best for hitters and they're all batting like 9th and stuff, pretty good stuff. So like the Kanan Smith Njigba, I don't know however you pronounce it. He should be batting like probably in the top 6 tonight for Pittsburgh at Boston. He's cheap, 2,200. Derek Hall, I think it's very reasonable to take a shot at Derek Hall, 2,600. Tristan Casas is I prefer at 2,500 for Boston. Whit Merrifield's going to be super popular at batting 8th against his former KC team in that Toronto stack. Franmil Reyes is a cheap play that'll show up. Davey Jansen. Brandon Lau is probably going to be the highest owned player on the slate, and he's just way too cheap for his skill set, even though he's coming off a down year and off to a slow start.
I'll tell you, that Whit Merrifield price is a freaking travesty, huh?
Tell you what, it's not based on his production.
Right, but I mean now, but with the new rules, he gets on base. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yes, stolen bases should be plentiful for him. The problem is, he's in a different situation now playing with Toronto, where what's our real value? Why do we need to steal bases? Like, we have all these power hitters. Maybe we're risking a little too much in it. as a member of the Blue Jays, I believe he only stole 2 bases in 40 games or something like that. So I think that his stolen, but I think this year you're going to see those go back up again. I just don't know to what level. Vlad even stole a base yesterday. So
a couple of other cheapos I'll just kind of mention because I'm just staring at it right now is you mentioned Brandon, but the 2 guys from Pittsburgh, Swinsky and Kanan, like you mentioned. For what it's worth, Nate Eaton is a flat 2K for Kansas City. Hunter Dozier's 2,500 for Kansas City.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to get in, but your guy from the Dodgers at second base is 2,300, Vargas.
Yeah, I wouldn't be playing like one-off Vargas. I don't think that's a good way to play that.
Oh, okay. You're getting the Red Sox first baseman at 2,500, Kate Casas, however you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
So there are guys you could play for cheap, and maybe where else you want work, really.
And I'll just real quickly jump over to FanDuel and just say that I still have Scherzer and Bieber as my top 2. Scherzer 1 and 2, and then Valdez and Castillo are looking to be more popular. I will probably take the less than the field approach on those 2. Play more of Scherzer and Bieber. Oh, I'm looking at, and then I was looking at by accident. I was looking at the all-day slate. I actually should have asked the same for some guys. Is there any way to default to the main slates? Because I always try to figure this things out. I'm like, wait, Alcantara? What about him? And I'm just.
What's the streak now for Valdez? The quality starts. It's like
I don't know, but it seems like every time it's like been almost a sure thing. I mean, I am going to have some of them, but I don't want to play him at 30% ownership when I can play Scherzer, who's, I mean, he's probably getting one as well. With higher strikeout upside, although they both have really good ones in this matchup. I just think Scherzer at like 1/3 the ownership of Valdez is really interesting. Same with Bieber. Those guys just have monster upside. So Scherzer is going to be the one for me.
And if you had to prioritize your pitchers again on DraftKings?
Scherzer, Bieber, Valdez. Sadly, Castillo, because I still am not sure I buy into the ownership should be as high as it is, but I do think he's the next guy and Urias.
He's going to end up being popular because of that extra 1,000, I think. That you say. No.
Castillo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe not though, because I mean, he's showing as a second. He's only 700 cheaper than Scherzer on. He's more expensive than Valdez on FanDuel, and he's still showing up as the second highest owned pitcher.
When I run a FanDuel build, by the way, I'm getting. I mean, Valdez and Scherzer at like 35% each, and almost nothing from anybody else.
I think Scherzer's ownership will spike. Even from the show we did with SaberSim, like the fact that they ended up with like the first builds like had 88% sure, because I do think that's the right thing to do. If you think Scherzer's going to be lower owned than these other guys in the same price range, I think you just load up on him.
Yeah.
My first build, my main build on DraftKings is likely to have Bieber and Scherzer. On FanDuel, I will spread out a little bit and include these other guys. But maybe the right thing to do is that it just feels so hard for Heaney to get there with the 6 innings. You never know what to expect from him. Heaney and Pivetta are a little bit interesting as guys who are 88 and 8,500 on FanDuel if you wanted to save a little bit.
Yeah.
Tough to ignore the top of the range tonight. We don't have these cheap guys who might just go out there and ball. They might, by the way. Josh Fleming, you put it out there in the universe sheets. I'm telling you, now Josh Fleming is going to be the highest scoring player on the slate. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the water, right? I mean,
and don't be surprised if they go for the opener. And also be wary of openers. I mean, I said it yesterday. I didn't in the early slate. We had Manaea, who was supposed to be the pitcher, and what's his name was supposed to be the opener, Disco Stu, DeScalfani. And he ended up DeScalfani pitching 6 1/3 of like one hit ball or something like that. Like, so be wary about if there is an opener, if you were considering a weird Fleming play on DK. Anyway, so yeah, Houston, Boston, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, St. Louis, my favorites. And I'm going to tighten up some of my stuff, but basically have 5 pitchers in my mix, with the exception of throwing in a weird Fleming, Pivetta, Heaney, or Gibson. Scherzer, Valdez, Bieber, Castillo, Urias. Pretty close to in that order. I think I like Bieber a little bit better than Valdez considering ownership.
And I will be making a guest appearance on the FanDuel streets.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna play like 5 in that 150. I think.
Well, I'm gonna give 100K tonight. Then you're gonna keep playing, or you're gonna stop again? Just
I'm
quit.
completely gonna stop. Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck, everybody. We'll see you at 6 Eastern time.
Yep. We'll see.